A Definition of Ladyhood. Chapter 1. A Woman's Soul. The essence of a woman, her basic psychology. Women have been defined by men in men's terms until relatively recently, but now that women are coming into their own both out in the workforce and as separate entities unto themselves, the question is, once you throw off the shackles of what it means to be a woman as defined by men all throughout history, what exactly is a woman as the pure essence she is in her soul? Women are as complex and individual as men if they choose to be, yet as simple and one-dimensional as the stereotypical caricatures if they choose to be too. So women are women just like men are men. In modern society, a woman can be pretty well anything she wants, but the problem, hypocrisy, or contradiction with all of this is that despite all this talk about freedom and being who you are, beyond a superficial, glossy facade of store-bought trendiness, most women are no different than the woman of 30 years ago and have no desire to be. Despite having gotten the gains of near full access and equitable pay in the workforce, the average woman has no great desire to live a free, exploratory life indulging her pure desires. Whether by instinct, genetic predisposition, or cultural conditioning, most women, when being completely honest away from cultural hype and the peer pressure of their friends, say they want to meet some Prince Charming guy somewhere who'll take care of them, be loyal, honest and loving, have kids and live happily ever after in a nice house in the suburbs. Some will dabble in a career/business or even go full-fledged into it, but most women have not deviated too far from traditional roots. Even though the media, mostly through advertising, portrays modern enlightened women as cool, hip, happenin', free, independent life explorers who can do what they want, most women spend more time worrying about clothes and what color of lipstick to wear rather than to try to do brave, tough, original, and daring things to explore their lives. I think a big difference between men and women is loneliness. If I shoot missiles off every day, even if I do it to myself, that's good enough for me as a man. I don't dwell on alleged intimate emotional deficiencies in my life as defined by society. I live an interesting life for me regardless of whether I'm single or in relationships. For women, it's different. I don't know if it's massive cultural conditioning that you need a man or if it's a biological craving, but a lot of women are at least slightly mentally ill if they're not in a monogamous relationship with a man or a woman. I've scanned lots of books about the psychology of women at number 305.4 and HQ1206 at the library, where some rant and rave about the new emerging, fully functioning, independent, goddess woman. Others focus on the physiology of women, their complex plumbing and supposed brain differences that supposedly make them superior to men, thicker corpus callosum than men. Still others talk about cultural conditioning, about how women are shaped by the forces of tradition, pop culture, and corporate advertising. The occasional ones, particularly the major surveys, reveal the lie or deception of pop culture and mass media. Even though the modern girl is portrayed as this adventurous, independent, cool, happenin' chick, beneath the facade of trying to dress trendy and look cool, most girls have no great plans for doing original, inspired, independent things with their lives and don't like this kinda stuff anyway. They'd rather take on a regular job somewhere for a while, read frivolous women's magazines, buy some clothes and perfume at the mall on Saturday, meet a wonderful guy who will marry them, have kids, become stay-at-home moms, then live happily ever after. The psychology of your average woman is that she desperately wants to be loved by a man and maybe talk with her girlfriends while shopping for new clothes at the mall. Despite how one-dimensional this looks, this comes out of the mouths of American females themselves. Look at the teen idol thing. It's no different now than when I was a kid, all these tweens, teens, and adult women going crazy over some cute kid manufactured to be a pop star in the media. Are you all still that stupid that you don't realize it's a load of crap trying to sell you something, in this case, a fake pseudo-emotional connection with some punk-ass kid and his handlers making money off you left and right? Then his star will fade and the next new boy band will come on the scene. Personally, I think all the young female pop stars out there are skanky. They sold their souls looking for fame. If they want to do porn, do it. Don't confuse music with softcore porn. Why do young women allow themselves to buy into all this teen idol crap? How do you expect respect from a man? Why do so many women do something as skanky as color their hair? Do you think it makes you look cool? It makes you look like a stupid, brainwashed idiot who denies her true self to conform to society's bullshit. How am I supposed to respect a woman with colored hair as a noble person trying to do something original, tough, and inspired with her life? Women want a man to love them, to treat them with honor and respect, to pledge exclusive love forever and be outstanding fathers to the children they have together. They want to be good wives and happy mothers. I know a certain young girl in her early 20s who told me that she knows she'll meet her alpha male, Prince Charming, at some point in her life. I told her to look around. I don't see very many handsome men with athletic bodies around, who have money and aren't constantly jacking off to porn. Most men are average. They look average. They have average jobs. They drink beer, play video games and watch sports on TV. If a guy has got any money, he is usually arrogant and thinks he's entitled to sleep with multiple women. Chances are you won't find an original freethinker with a monogamous soul who wants to be a family man and raise kids, so the sooner you realize that most men are either mooks or wimps, the better off you'll be. Quit holding out for a hero. Get real. Get independent for real. You can dabble in your career and try to look glamorous as gleaned from a cosmetics commercial or go artsy-fartsy pop culture, but the average woman wants to be loved by a man and be in a strong family structure with him. I've seen this even with older women who let it slip out in an unguarded moment. They're still holding out for a fairytale romance, for some mysterious, tall, handsome man to come from somewhere to sweep them off their feet, then ride away into the sunset together. Some men want this type of love, but they can get along without it. Women are more desperate for it, and it never ends with most of them. I don't know if this is genetic, social indoctrination or something else, but all my readings about women's souls where I felt that I wasn't being sold a bill of goods by some feminist man-hater or a new age goddess wannabe bear out the fact that women in modern society are, for the most part, totally traditional, despite all the smoke thrown at us by the media in the likes of supposed wild, glamorous, exciting, sexy, manufactured pop stars and supposed action-adventure chicks in TV shows and in movies like The Relic Hunter or Lara Croft, the cool British chick. Then there's the cougar. Get real. That's all about trying to sell middle-aged women trendy junk that only young women usually buy. A middle-aged woman knows that men are naturally attracted to the youngest-looking women around. Most middle-aged married women aren't even attractive anymore. They probably don't have sex with their husbands who are overweight bags of crap too. Watch some of those Real Housewives shows. If you want lessons in how not to be, watch them. There's not one in the bunch following her true nature or her soul. None of them are truly good-hearted people. They're all self-centered narcissists fighting among themselves for who's the smartest, prettiest, thinnest, and richest. It's like the Great Gatsby, all living in material excess looking for something. They don't know that they should honor who they were born to be by releasing all that natural energy inside of them every day. They just watch those stupid TV shows and live for pretense. Myself personally, I don't believe much in all that dawning of the new age of Aquarius mystique stuff written about women. Most of it is written by women to supposedly send a message to men about how mysterious and intuitive they are, but I tend to think it's more selfing bull than truth. These women write these things to reassure themselves and other women that they are somehow superior to men and more special than them. Maybe they're compensating for a lack of an idealistic, fairy tale romance in their lives. I'm a guy who calls a spade, or at least with my diluted sense of intellectual prowess, I like to think I do. I said that men have all the emotional capacity of a woman, it's just that they don't show it for any of a number of reasons. In the same way, I don't think women are all that different from men. Some men want love and family just as much as women do in their souls, but their cultures have indoctrinated them to be a bunch of macho clowns. Some rise above it to be the individual they feel inside, just like some women will rise above cultural roles to be who they really are in their souls, but it's tough to be an original, inspired individual as opposed to a generic human being following the culture around you. It must be harder on a girl to follow her true nature simply because there's more cultural pressure on them to conform, plus there's a big safety factor. I can go anywhere I want. People generally don't bother 6-foot dudes weighing 220 pounds or so. A free chick trying to live an independent life would have all kinds of hassles trying to do what she really wanted to do unless she had a strong, supportive hubby by her side. I can hang out in seedy areas or travel alone. If a girl does this, she could easily be targeted by any male who is probably much physically stronger than her. There will always be bohemian extremists around, but most men are meat and potatoes working clones who come home, drink beer, and watch sports on TV just like most women want to be with a loving husband and stay home to raise the kids. Don't gimme any more psychobabble and smoke about this issue. You can do whatever you want, I don't care. Just don't go feeding me this new age, goddess, superiority, cool, independent, happen in action star chick vibe. You are who you are. Don't try to fake me out with manufactured fairy tales about being something you're not. Most girls or guys will never leave their comfort zones to go out on a limb to explore their lives. They will live out that standard life path mapped out for them by the system, indulging in a few minor freedoms here and there like taking a drive to the Rockies, but as far as taking the essence of the human soul for a good run, it ain't gonna happen. So go ahead, do what you want, but don't go pretending that the modern woman is some advanced super babe, supermom who can do it all and does. Chances are you're just an average person who works a job and puts forth a functional effort in trying to raise a few kids and keep a family together. Heck, some days you don't even feel like getting out of bed. You're contemplating whether to ask the doctor to fill out a prescription for Prozac, Zoloft, or some estrogen replacement drugs. I say throw out all that delusional literature I see out there everywhere in all those stupid magazines, stupid books, and stupid TV shows proclaiming the average modern-day woman as some free, independent, fascinating superhuman bohemian. Be who you are, straight and true, without trying to fake it to conform to all this crap they're throwing at you about what it means to be a woman, with your fake boobs, your psychobabble, and those silly musings of what it means to be a sexy, sultry superwoman, wife and mother all at the same time. Don't just try to appear cool and successful as gleaned from your culture. Be who you really are. That's the toughest battle for all human beings, men and women alike, if they choose to fight for it, but most won't. They'll be happy being led by all the psychobabble, tradition, and pop culture out there, and what's really funny is that we're so brainwashed that we take on the ideas that society throws at us about what it means to be free, exciting and adventurous. It's defined for us in silly TV shows, silly movies and silly ads and commercials. You can see people everywhere trying to imitate this image of cool, but the coolest person of all is the one not influenced by any of it, living their own lives purely, and that's really quite rare. When a guy comes across 10 or 20 different women and they're all putting on airs about how cool or advanced they are, about how they're a great catch, what is he supposed to do? If I come across a pretty woman, I expect to see delusions of grandeur. If I come across a cool girl trying to do something interesting with her life, she usually lacks the ladylike, feminine qualities men like shaving your underarms or trying to look good in a modest way without overkill. I expect guys to be grungy, but I expect girls to have a sensibility to look good when they go out anywhere. A woman who is too casual will not impress guys as someone special. Women's quotes. It's amazing what we'll do for scraps of love. Old chick on TV show starting over. Girls today often find themselves in a struggle between remaining strong and true to themselves and conforming to society's expectations in an attempt to please. They are taught not to be too intense, too passionate, too smart, too caring, too open. They are encouraged to shut down their instincts, their outrage, their desires, and their dreams, to be polite, to obey the rules. I Am an Emotional Creature is a celebration of the authentic voice inside every girl and an inspiring call to action for girls everywhere to speak up, follow their dreams, and become the women they were always meant to be. Review of I Am an Emotional Creature, by E. Vinsler. And still the prince lingers, I guess he is lost and will never come. I want the prince, but maybe a career will do. But the prince, I want him. Azalea Emma Pete, Her Diary, 1887 to 1973. It was becoming all too common. A well-established midlife couple with everything to be grateful for: a beautiful family, a cozy home, a comfortable lifestyle, and a divorce proceeding heatedly underway. Another midlife marital casualty. Nancy Settle. Double menopause: what to do when both you and your mate go through hormonal changes together. The torment that so many young women know, bound hand and foot by love and motherhood, without having forgotten their former dreams. Simone de Beauvoir. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us most. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and famous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that people won't feel insecure around you. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in all of us. And when we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Marianne Williamson. It's more like $PECT. Sinbad, Sinbad's Guide to Life, Because I Know Everything, 1997. I want him to make me feel special. I want to be loved for who I am, not in spite of it. Lay the blame for the 4 enemies of happiness, the 4 new horses of the apocalypse: death, bereavement, loneliness, and shame at nature's door. All are attendant upon aging. It is well to acknowledge that nature is not our friend. Blithely, she discards us. Better treat her as an enemy. She is concerned with our children, not with us, and though our interests may overlap, they do not coincide. Nature has no interest in us once we are past a certain age, and even for the young she can prove an uneasy ally. Faye Weldon. What makes women happy? Over the last 4 decades, women have experienced unprecedented growth in independence and opportunities. Yet, many of us are flooded with worries, thoughts, and emotions that swirl out of control, sucking our emotions and energy down, down, down. We are suffering from an epidemic of overthinking, getting caught in torrents of negative thoughts and emotions that overwhelm us and interfere with our functioning and well-being. Susan Nolan Hoaxema, Women Who Think Too Much, How to Break Free of Overthinking and Reclaim Your Life. No is a complete sentence. Anne Lamont. The Psychology of Women, What Do They Really Want? 1. I love to be loved. People want to be in an exciting relationship with a dreamy lover. A woman is looking for a male to sire her children and give her protection. In the spirit of the animal kingdom, she wants a strong male with a healthy-looking, strong body. I was absent-mindedly watching a movie on TV one night when it struck me how profound it was in describing the differences between men and women when it comes to love. It's called Hysterical Blindness, 2002, which is about 2 girls looking for love. When you watch it, you can see clearly that even though it's melodramatic, this is the great chasm of differences between girls and guys, or at least it's the great difference in the way they treat each other face to face, barring all the fantasy romantic escapades that are in their souls. The guy the girl is interested in is acting like an insensitive, dumb jerk who likes sex but has no emotional depth, but she's so love-starved that it causes her great pain to not feel loved, to not have a boyfriend who loves her for her. Uma Thurman, the actress of Pulp Fiction fame, played the desperate working-class New Jersey girl looking for love to take her away from her average, mundane life. It sort of reminded me of a next generation looking for Mr. Goodbar from around 1978. Women's greatest weakness is loneliness, more so than a man. They can't bear being lonely, which is why they will date and marry frogs just to relieve these feelings. Often these marriages turn out just as bad or even worse than being lonely. In my opinion, most women in our culture are suckers. They have been sucked into a dream fantasy of love with a guy as the elixir of life by all the love stories, magazine articles, and TV commercials they've seen on TV since they were kids. I'm not saying love is not great, but to me it's not life-changing. I have been in love several times in my life. Beyond the romance, my consciousness is still the same. I'm still the essential me. Love will not change the inner you. You still have to live with yourself. The other big failing girls have is their expectations of guys in general. They think there are dreamy, monogamous gentlemen out there. Let me tell you, any guy under 35 who knows he's physically attractive with a good body is arrogant, smooth, and will break your heart if you fall for his charms. All guys are sex addicts in the privacy of their minds. Nobody fools me. If you act holier than thou, I laugh cynically and write you off as a liar. I know that I'm not much different from any other guy sexually. Somebody said if you want to know what men are really like, watch some porn. It's made by men for men. That's what men are really thinking, even though almost no man will admit his slutty sexual thoughts to his girl. If you knew what I thought in my head, you would know that all men have to live with a neutered sexuality within society unless you are wealthy enough to afford a harem, are a porn star, or are charming enough to attract 6 or more casual sex girlfriends. Even though most of us don't have one of these arrangements, the sexuality is still there. This is why men will go for casual sex if they think they can get it, and why men will cheat. I happen to think that maturity comes from day-to-day experience in life, which gives you time to see how life works, and over time, a guy can come to a concrete decision as to what he wants out of it. Sex, booze, and casual hedonism are fine, but most guys decide on love only after they feel lonely for a while. This generally doesn't happen until the guy is 30. In good-looking, athletic guys, they don't start to get humble until about 35, if ever. Some never do. I know one guy, a bartender, who still works out and grooms himself, who's still playing around at 52 even though he's married with 3 children. My point is that I believe there are good guys out there. I've met upstanding, loyal guys before, but I've never met Superman or Prince Charming. All guys get beat up by the world of work except for the few pansies born with silver spoons in their mouths, but their problem is that they have no real self-respect, nor do they get any from the world. Girls set their expectations way too high. Many guys do too. Some guys can stay inspired about their lives, but most guys get tired, they take a beating from the world, they focus on their work, then their appreciation of life itself goes. They no longer exercise their bodies, listen to music, or feel inspired enough to smell the roses. If you're a nice girl, do yourself a favor. Look for a humble guy with good values over the playboy type, because all playboy types think they're entitled to anything they want, including X number of women. The rich, good-looking guy looking to sweep a sweet girl off her feet is fodder for romance novels and frivolous women's magazines. At least half the time these guys are sensitive artists, like the best-selling novel author or the artist with noble dreams. Look around. The real world ain't like that. Look at yourself in the mirror. You might think you're special, but smart guys are counterintuitive to society's bullshit. The more high-maintenance, ambitious, and accomplished you present yourself to the world, contrary to what the TV commercials and frivolous women's magazines say, the more cooler and worthy you're not. Smart guys see a cold, self-centered fish who thinks she's hot stuff. They're looking for somebody warm, simple and unpretentious. The psychology of women, what do they really want? 2. Most women don't feel they're being loved enough. I married the first time to please my mother, I must marry the second time to please my daughter. But why? Hester Thrale, Her Diary, 1741–1821. Women are closer to their female friends than men are with their male friends. Proportionately speaking, there are many more lesbians around than gay guys, precisely for the fact that women are more intimate with each other. Women want to be desired by a sincere guy who treats them as equals. Women want comfort, safety, love, health, respect, resources, and power, a healthy virile guy to mate with who's nice and wealthy enough to help raise the children. They also want a sweet, sensitive, gentle soul, preferably the soul of a poet/artist who has enough savvy in the real world to earn a decent living. When a chick sees a cool, nice-looking guy, she's primally attracted to him. Some will go along with him for the ride, but most girls are jaded and world-weary enough to know that a good-looking, suavo kind of guy is generally not monogamous enough to love them for them and regularly put meat on the table if they were to get involved and have kids. Looking at myself as a cynical middle-aged guy, I feel that I could play around with any willing volunteer, but when it comes to love, I come across a girl with natural beauty, a naturally good heart, unpretentious and unbrainwashed by pop culture and frivolous women's magazines about once or twice a year if that. In my quest for love, which is non-existent because I live for daily experience, one day at a time, no other girl would be worth it to me. The way I feel about this from my noble idealistic loft, at least in the privacy of my mind, is the exact same way all middle to upper class girls feel about love. Lower class girls are more realistic. They don't have this unflinching dazzling portrait locked away in their minds of some perfect handsome, tall Prince Charming who's nice, has a good job, a good heart, can carry on an intelligent conversation about Chaucer or left-wing politics, and most importantly, somebody who is open enough to reveal who he really is with words in casual conversation, who comes across emotionally that he thinks the girl is really special, and on top of that is the steady guy she thinks will be there when she has breast cancer and gets a mastectomy, or gets dumpy and wrinkly raising his kids because she thinks she's worth it and has been brought up to believe she will find this super guy and or he will pick her out of the crowd for her specialness because she is. Her God has promised her this perfect life too because she's such a devoted follower of her religion. This is the way the script was written in modern day fairy tale, religion, pop culture, corporate advertising, and this is the way it's supposed to turn out, no ifs and buts. It's too bad that all these middle to upper class girls in capitalist countries have been brought up to expect Adonis, the thinker, James Dean, and Moneybags, the tycoon all in one package as their mate. Firstly, almost no guy is like this, and if he was, he'd be too self-centered for a true monogamous relationship, kind of like the Renaissance man with a contract only to honor his own life to get the most out of it without some soppy chick interfering. And secondly, any good-looking guy with some brains and money would most likely be having a good time with a number of chicks. He wouldn't waste it on one chick unless she was really special, but just as there are a lot of guys who think they're the real deal but really aren't, there are a lot of brainwashed girls who think they're worth it and they're gonna get some deep, handsome guy with money bowing down to them, but it won't happen in most cases because they're too self-centered and vain to be really worth it to the guy, because he ain't stupid and he don't want no pop culture clone with the warmth of a dead fish trying to snare him in because he would be great to be seen with and make her friends jealous, so to speak. Besides, there are very few truly emotionally open guys out there strong enough to open up and proclaim their love for a girl the way she really wants, who have all the other qualities to boot. The handsome, wealthy, intelligent guys generally think themselves too cool to allow themselves to be led or dictated to by anyone. They say, you either take me as I am right here, right now, or don't take me at all. I'm not gonna get all mushy with you and talk about my past the way you want. You're my girl. We have fun together while we're together, but after that, leave me alone to my computer, my work, my drugs, my TV, or whatever else it is that I do. I think guys are so massively brainwashed to succeed, achieve, and never show emotion that by the time most of us are 21 years old, we've been so indoctrinated to be a winner and a cool, adventurous guy according to capitalist standards that we can't even open up much to a girl we fall in love with. We can play out roles of love like we see on TV, but the act of opening yourself up enough to show your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, your fears as a man is not gonna happen for most guys, even though this is what the girl really wants, to feel that true emotional connection, not just the superficial I love you, let's kiss and hug, which you do, but there's no true deep emotional meeting of the minds there sustained day after day with the guy going for walks with her, telling her when he feels like a failure or when he's really angry or hurt. The girl wants to be cool and glamorous on one level because she's been brainwashed to be like this by pop culture, but then she wants some guy to really love her in the old-fashioned romantic way, but this goes against all the indoctrination in women's magazines about being independent and in control, so she's confused. She wants to trust her soul the way she was born, but she's constantly bombarded by music videos and TV commercials to act like some cool character sashaying down a fashion runway, so it's a mess because the average middle to upper class girl out there is giving off two mutually exclusive vibes. I'm glamorous, cool, successful, beautiful, independent, vain, in charge and worth it. Measure up to my standards. I'm just an insecure little girl with a fragile cool, glamorous facade who feels lonely and wants a nice man to love me for me, to protect me, to take care of me, see how nice and beautiful I am and worship me for it. Guys aren't stupid. They know the difference between phony and glamorous and real and nice. If you're playing one role, don't expect to all of a sudden play the other. Everybody is phony to some extent. That's fine. Just be more real than pretense. Start off by getting rid of your hair color and at least half of your wardrobe and cosmetics. If you can't, then you know where your real heart is at. If you own more than 10 pair of shoes and I was dating you and walked into your bedroom to see all this excess, I would cut it off right there because I know that a real lady of substance must necessarily think like I do, which is to have contempt for excessive materialism, to know it's a negative mental disorder and anybody who has it is not a good person. I walked into a certain girl's bedroom one time and she could tell I was kind of shocked that the size of her closet was the size of a normal bedroom and it was full of clothes. She turned to me and said, "Well, a girl's gotta have fun." How could I ever fall in love with somebody who lives in extreme material excess while we're all perfectly aware of all the inequity, injustice, pain, and suffering in the world? I will never fall in love with any girl who tries to fill up her empty soul with clothes, shoes, and other junk. Try to do something original, aesthetic, pursuit of beauty through art, or functional. Guys really like girls who go one step above the regular girl hooked on clothes and cosmetics, who actually try to do something worthwhile and inspired with their lives. Can you be nice and real enough such that some guy, who might be an easygoing slob at heart, would want to tell you he loves you and mean it, who would willingly play the fool for you because he thinks you're so nice and special to him? This is what all women really want, to be able to trust a guy wholly and be treated like a princess by him. They want the guy to talk, listen, and say what's on his mind. They want a guy with feeling eyes that sparkle when he talks or looks at them, with love coming out of his eyes from his soul. The irony is that most girls in our culture have cold, materialistic, brainwashed hearts, but to themselves, they think they're warm, kind, and nice. Self-delusion is the folly of pride. Why do you think a lot of guys go to Russia or the Philippines looking for a bride? It's not just me blowing hot air, but after you talk to 20, 50, or 100 girls and you see they all have basically the same brainwashed minds, you start to wonder, is there any unpretentious nice girl left who owns her own mind and isn't brainwashed by all that crap on TV and in silly magazines? Every middle to upper class girl thinks she's free, original, independent, and owns her own mind, but chances are that she's another version of the same old pop culture clone you see hosting one of them entertainment tabloid shows with that phony bubbly sense that they're doing something exciting when they're really just following some media crap hype. It's not exactly like they're trailblazers with their own lives. The whirlwind stuff is fine, but sustained love relationships aren't based on this. The girl has to feel safe with the guy, like she can tell him anything and he will be there with her for the long haul. This is what a girl really wants, but the problem for the alpha males out there is that they rarely find a girl who has true outer beauty to her combined with a truly beautiful soul. Most girls with outer beauty are vain, frivolous, and arrogant and think they're warm, sophisticated, nice people, but they really aren't, which is why a lot of these girls won't end up with the really nice guys. The really nice guys will find the really nice girls. The fake, glamorous broads will find the one-dimensional macho men hooked on their cars and their vanity. The average woman is a walking contradiction, just like men are. She wants the long-haired romance novel stud who is romantic with her, has fun with her and sweeps her away for a moment here and there, but even though this could be enough for a quick marriage, it's never enough to sustain a relationship. A girl wants that closeness, intimacy, the talking, listening and support that will sustain her need for love and companionship day after day. Some guys can sweep girls off their feet, but very few can sustain it, which is why the nerdy-looking guys often stay with girls longer, because the adventurous, dreamy types are often not that deep or intimate. Books about the psychology of women are at number 305.4 or HQ 1206 at the library. The Psychology of Women, What Do They Really Want? 3. I want somebody with depth, a good personality who is kind. I want to be loved and held. From birth to age 18, a girl needs good parents. From 18 to 35, she needs good looks. From 35 to 55, she needs a good personality. From 55 on, she needs cash. Sophie Tucker, 1884 to 1966. Although not every woman desires every experience every day, women want lovemaking and down and dirty sex, cuddling and bondage, monogamy and promiscuity with women and men, fluttery kisses and serious fucking, celibacy and constant sex, to take and be taken. It's simple, really. Women, particularly lesbians, want and demand the freedom to express ourselves sexually when we wish, in the manner we choose without the interference of church, government, or prevailing prejudices. That's what women want. The Lesbian Sex Book, by Wendy Castor. Point blank, there are two things at the heart of every woman in a modern, westernized culture. Whether by nature or cultural indoctrination I don't know, but every woman is desperate to get affection from a man, woman for lesbian. Feel sexy and physically attractive about themselves. You can run to the bank selling products catering to these two facets of a woman's life. It limits them to some extent because this becomes the obsession of many women's lives, to be accepted and loved by others for being who they are, while guys don't care as much. They can go on living relatively happily regardless of whether they're loved, fat, ugly or old. It seems so much easier to be a guy because of less emotional baggage and less concern with meeting some illusory standard of physical look. You become a woman by actively striving to learn who you are, but in general, women are prevented from pursuing their natural destinies because they live in a man's world where their roles are limited, so you have to make the choice as to whether you will be yourself and pursue your destiny as a natural person or give in and become a slave to cultural roles already defined for you by the patriarchal society you live in. Women are insecure because of the expectations the world places on them, though the traditional established roles that tell them to be mothers and housewives, and the pop culture corporate media which wants a beautiful, independent career girl full of herself, at the very least, two diametrically opposing images as to what a woman should be all in one. In their own words, women say their strengths and proud differences from men are generally the following points as gleaned from a women's discussion forum on TV. We are caring, empathetic and nurturing. We're intrinsically different from men, more loving and caring, and are proud of who we are. Are united and stick together in a sexist world dominated by men. We have a special women's intuition within ourselves and in the bonds with each other. We have the ability to be friends more so than men. Express ourselves through words. How many girls keep diaries/journals versus how many boys do? We have great female friends who help each other through anything. We have great, close, intimate mother/daughter relationships. We talk girl talk with our friends in a deep emotional way that guys can't do nor relate to. We have a sisterhood that men can't come close to matching because they're always competing with each other. We have deeper friendships with each other than men. We have better fashion sense than men, which makes life so much more wonderful and interesting, not my words, liberated girl on TV. We love gossiping about sex and love, which makes us more knowledgeable about it than men. Even though the culture encourages us to compete in the beauty war of who's the most beautiful, our aesthetic natures actually bond us more than men can bond with each other. We are friendlier and more supportive of each other than men are. We have special plumbing needs that men don't understand that further unite us. We are sexually softer and more beautiful than men. We hold sexual power over men should we choose to use it. We are great shoppers. It's a spiritual bonding event for us. We are better parents than men. Feminine power. And finding her beauty such power has got. Her heart pants for something she cannot tell what. W.B. Yeats. I am the beloved. You are the beloved. Phony feminist guru. Use your feminine power to become the woman you feel you ought to be, a capable, nurturing, ambitious yet gentle soul. The world sees women as the weaker sex and sex objects, so you have to make your own breaks, love yourself and develop your own identity without being sucked in by the pop culture illusion of working on your beauty through cosmetics and sexiness as advanced by frivolous women's magazines, vampy TV shows and exploitative music videos. Women defeat themselves by thinking if they're not perfect, they don't measure up, therefore won't be loved, and if they're too perfect, they're cold bitches and will not be loved. So you are your own worst enemy by playing society's game of defining yourself when you should play your own game. Try to become a good, humble person in your own way, but most importantly, accept yourself as is right now, which a lot of women can't do. They feel a need to be miserable all the time because they can never measure up to what society or the people in their lives want all at the same time. Toxic men are very good at manipulating women to make them feel they're never good enough, thin enough, sexy enough, etc. But you must not let a man get control over you like this. It's better to have the courage to walk away rather than risk being with a guy like this, because sooner or later, you will anger him enough that he will leave, hit you, and may even kill you, because that's the way some of these men are. If he can't control you and feels that you bruised his ego, he will get you back one way or another. Verbal abuse is not minor. It can be debilitating, reveals the true character of the perpetrator, and often leads to greater abuse. Society uses guilt to keep women down. If you go beyond bland niceness to be assertive in any way at all, men and women alike will thumb their noses at you and give you the message, who do you think you are, because it goes against the prescribed cultural roles of what a woman is supposed to be. But true liberation is to ignore all this and be who you really are. Don't let your sensitive woman's nature keep you down. Develop a tougher exterior where you just live for experience without analyzing your life all that much. Don't dwell on what others might think of you. Don't remember all your interactions with people over a lifetime and overanalyze them. Find your soul and live by it, totally accepting of yourself. For women only one. You can't change anyone, so don't try. If you do, you're committing a sin against nature, and he will have contempt for you for cutting his balls off. The American girl makes a servant of her husband and then finds him contemptible for being a servant. John Steinbeck. Women are either goddesses or mattresses. Pablo Picasso. This statement by Picasso pretty well summarizes the schizophrenic view that men have with women. On the one hand, they idealize them as loving, beautiful creatures. On the other, it's all about depraved sex with no love attached. This is the way men view women they come across. They either like you as a beautiful angelic creature right off, or see you as another generic sex object who will do for sex, but they don't feel anything for you. In an ideal world, a man would have both: his beautiful wife that he does nice things with and goes on nice family outings, but then he will have a room full of his harem, a bunch of sexy girls for straight sex, since he can't do depraved sexy things to his wife because he sees her as kind of an angelic figure on a pedestal, there for love, respect, honor and cuddling, not for wild sex. Solve this inconsistency in man's nature and you win the game of life, but you can't. It's real and will never go away. Know that every male on the planet has a secret depraved sex life going on in his mind, no matter how much of a corny family man he appears to be. This is man's true nature. It can never be denied. Repressed and covered up, yes, but never denied. One night, I logged into a website written by a guy for guys. At the top of it was something like, men are all about making money, sex, beer, and freedom. This is the truth. Men can be nice guys, fall in love and all that, but at the core, it's all about achievement then fun without hassles. Men can be romantic, but they'd rather just have sex than catch a buzz while watching TV. I've exchanged meaningless trivialities about life with hundreds of men, and it always comes down to making money, paying the bills, being successful as defined by the system. Then after that, it's just easy, hassle-free time drinking beer and having hassle-free sex one way or another. Get this through your head about any man you come across. This is what they're really like, despite any noble or phony airs they put on. Men are intrinsically self-centered, always worrying about making it and almost never breathing a word about their problems to anybody except in momentary feeble wisps. The unspoken code is don't whine about your life, because if you do, you're not a real man. Keep it to yourself, go out and do something about it, and that's the way men are, a bunch of lonely ships plodding their way through life, trying to get rich and find freedom, being superficial and friendly with other men, but everybody knowing you gotta carry your own cross, so don't put head trips on other people with your baggage. The problem with men is that they're arrogant, full of ego and machismo when they're young, most of them without two nickels to rub together, but they still think they're hot stuff anyway. Then by the time they hit an age where they figure things out, realize that nobody gives a damn about how big and tough they act, get some money happening, and learn from experience, which equals wisdom, that you have to befriend a girl in her soul in order to truly love her. It's almost too late for most of them. Because by then they're paunchy, middle-aged, and dull, so they don't have the sparkle of youth, but they have the maturity to know it's all about friendship, temperance and being real. By the time the average girl hits about 27, she realizes most guys under 35 are not honest or mature, so she's looking for a good man even if he is a bit paunchy. So what I see is generally middle-aged guys who can't score with under 25-year-old girls and don't want to because of all the head trips that go with that immature, prima donna scene, so they're looking for somebody still young but with a bit of maturity. So you get a lot of guys around 40 or so connecting with girls around 28. Each gives the other what they want: some maturity, stability, honesty, and trust. In my opinion, most guys and girls under 30 don't have these qualities in abundant numbers. They're too busy playing the field like a chess game, looking for the best catch they can get. All men want simplicity in their lives, which means they don't really want that melodramatic stuff from you clouding their minds. They want a soft friend to be there quietly loving them in their company with a few kisses and cuddles here and there, and that's good enough for them. They work hard all day and think about how to manage their lives and get ahead, so they don't really want to hear all your trivial bickering about how you're too fat, you want to buy that new dress, color your hair, your friend called you a name, etc. It's fine for a woman to want something and her man might be perfectly willing to go for it, but you have to let him know about it. You must let your man know how you feel and what you want him to do about it, because men assume silence is comfort, not brooding as you usually are. A good thing to do is to go through this book and underline everything you want him to know, so when he checks it out, he will see what you underlined. From 20 to 30, you need good looks. From 30 to 40, you need a good personality. After 40, you either need a good man or a good investment plan. Your looks will go, but you can age gracefully if you're a soulful person. If not, you will become a generic hag. Your guy might become the male middle-aged version of you and be comfortable with you, but more likely than not, there won't be any passion there, so take care of yourself. Find a soulmate while you're young who won't let life destroy him as he ages, and have fun with him as you go off into the sunset of life. I saw a documentary about several women who got divorced in middle age, and even though some of them got large financial settlements, they had no real lives, so to speak. Single older women don't fit in much anywhere except for church and the sewing club. Older guys can still hang out anywhere and just be considered the cool older dude. Women generally expect way too much from guys. There are no real romantic knights in shining armor out there. Guys can be romantic if they really like a girl, but they can't get away from their true primal sex drives, which are generally way too slutty and depraved for most girls, so they keep their sexuality in private by themselves while having tame sex with a girl to fulfill a primal need for close, intimate contact, as well as the social need to get married, which all conformists accept by the time they're 10 years old. A guy's head is at least 75% concerned with making money and making some kind of worthy mark on the world, except for the lazy dogs who are losers in the first place, but everybody else is out there hustling to get ahead, as they say, to save some money, pay bills, and acquire material things. Beyond that, it's back to the hustle or get some rest, cheap thrills and TV before he has to go back to do battle with the world. If a guy gives you 10% of his time and energy, that's a good relationship. Don't expect much more unless you happen upon a romantic rich guy with the free time and the inclination to whisk you away off your feet to some wonderful, magical never land, but don't hold your breath. Expect a real guy in an eternal battle to work for money which will tax his soul, then your relationship with him. I've been in deep love, but at the very core, I always had to live in the real world and look out for making it over and above everything else. Incidentally, most rich guys are arrogant dogs who will cheat on their wives and feel entitled to. AskMen.com. For women only too. An excellent wife is the crown of her husband. Proverbs 12:4. A nagging wife annoys like constant dripping. Proverbs 19:13. Women are always questioning their marriage, comparing themselves to other people they know as well as to romance novels and soap operas, and their husbands don't measure up simply because life in the real world can't measure up to life in a fantasy world. Don't hold your man up to unrealistic standards. Don't nag with high expectations. If it's that bad, get a divorce. The average woman has emotional needs as deep as the Grand Canyon. She has to be reassured all the time and have somebody listen to her, which one man can't satisfy. Either turn to God or some friends for that emotional fulfillment, or live with it because you can't burden your man with all your emotional angst all the time. He doesn't particularly want to hear about it. Guys are incredible lovers in the fantasy worlds in their minds. In the real world they're not necessarily insecure but afraid of being rejected because they know that girls have that power over them. Girls, and guys, depending on their marketability in the status love game, can lead possible lovers on then reject them for their own entertainment and ego, and many do. A lot of girls think they're glorious tens and have fun rejecting guys or accepting a guy's request for a date but then trying to see how far he will chase her, testing his love and attraction to her endlessly. The net result of all these games is that guys in general are tired of superficial phonies who think they're really pretty and special, so they find somebody nice, real, and less glamorous who they can be real with, and this is what guys really want. They fear being rejected, so if you play the guy with your hot-cold approach, the guy doesn't like the inconsistency, so if he's like most guys who don't need the bull, he will cut you loose and go for somebody more straight up. Women in general have a romantic ideal that no human being on the planet can fulfill. Just about every girl under 25 thinks that she will meet a Prince Charming who will be worthy of her high standards since she's such a high-quality person, but by the time she hits 34, she starts seeing some reality and humble pie. You had better come down to reality and look at guys as who they really are, just fallible human beings making time on planet Earth. There are very few guys around the way great guys are portrayed on TV or in magazines. Life is too hard. It takes its cut. Men have to earn a living in the world, some have to earn their own self-respect, and the enlightened ones have to culture their sense of inspiration, so when it gets right down to it, man has an identity he must attend to, and he's generally not mature or over male angst enough until he's at least 35 to make for a patient, relaxed, great lover interested in savoring the experience for its own sake. I read an article in a woman's magazine that took a survey of over 8,000 women and found that most had negative feelings about their relationship with a man, whether it be husband or boyfriend. They said that 71% of the women surveyed felt left out, misunderstood, and a sense of distance from their men. Women want a sensitive man, and you shouldn't expect anything less while he's with you. Just don't expect him to put you above work because he can't. His work is survival, self-respect, and identity, and that's the most important thing. Most of that macho bull a man throws out at you is a cover, a wall you can break by grabbing him by the throat and saying, "Treat me like the proper lady I am, or you can go to hell, buddy." And that's it, right there. Of course, your leverage to him are your looks. If you're ugly and fat, he's got that over you, and if he's a jerk, he will abuse you because you take it. He thinks you're a loser, you will never change and find somebody better, so he owns you. Your job is to reinvent yourself as a better person and leave him. Most dependent type women sit home raising kids, and the man is the breadwinner, so he has the power, and you're too scared of getting the meal ticket cut off, so you go along with his insensitive lifestyle. Get a skill and earn your own money if you don't want to be in bondage to a guy. The typical role in the home is you as the sacrificial lamb playing cutesy and nice while inside you're mad as hell at this guy, but you're so scared that you might make him mad and he might leave you that you keep it all bottled up. You don't have to apologize for how you feel inside. You don't have to please everybody. You have a right to your feelings and a right to be heard, and any man worth his salt will respect that and acknowledge it for the relationship. If you don't have the guts, get them and speak up for yourself, then put the ultimatum on your current man. Either do this relationship thing up as a partnership or I'm gone, case closed, adios, baby. Most men are scared rabbits underneath it all, so after you call their bluffs, they will either cave into being the more sensitive lover you want, or if they split, good riddance, but most women are so love-starved that they stay with defective guys because they think it's better than nothing. Give him a copy of this book with this section underlined to read, then he will know he's been exposed. If they're still assholes, get rid of them if you've got the guts. It's that simple. Many women are afraid of being alone, but I say if you're halfway decent, you will find another man in a heartbeat, because the truth is, you, the woman, chooses the man 80% of the time by giving him the come on signals. Most men are too scared to come on to women outright. They wait until you give them those silent, emotional cues, then they make the move. If you want emotion from your man, you don't have to be straight out blunt with it. Take him out on a date, get him wined and dined, and then tell him how you feel and what you want him to do. If he's a good man, he will respond. If not, then you know his true colors, so you can dump him. Many women are scared about being assertive because you think he will drop you just like that. I say that if he will drop you just like that, he's not worth it. A real man will stick by you. Maybe it's your problem. You don't have the guts, or what the so-called experts call self-esteem, to tell it like it is. I saw a 1992 movie written by and starring Diane Cannon, presumably biographical, called The End of Innocence, where she was a slave to all these loser guys and took it until she went to a funny farm and learned that she liked men all right, but she didn't need to be with one to make it in life, so she could righteously can the frogs right off with no pangs of insecurity or guilt. You don't need a man to define yourself. A nice man is nice, but you don't need to hang on to a loser just to be with someone. Men have contempt for weak, dependent type women, even though some weak men like such women because they can own them and hold them hostage by providing the paycheck. Real men want a capable young lady who takes initiative to improve her life and knows about real things like money matters. Work on yourself to make it real. This is your life. Don't let the jerks out there spoil it. Don't just accept the passive, housewife role. Take a course or a part-time job to let him know that you can go it alone if need be. And think like that too. Think of your own self-sufficiency always, regardless of him paying the bills for now. He could hold that over you, but you should quietly go out and do your own thing for yourself. dailycandy.com, girlfriends discussing men. fieldguide.com, website that describes men. For women only. 3. A bad guy doesn't have to be an arrogant tit, criminal, or a pimp. He's someone who treats you with less than full respect and intentionally makes you feel bad more than once. If you're with a guy who's like that, why stay with him? The one good thing about bad guys is that after the pain they cause, they're good for you because they force you to see the real you and love yourself more than you did before you got caught up with the bum. The behavior of bad guys towards you has nothing to do with who you are. It's them who are the tits. Earlier, I said man sees women as either an idealized object of beauty, a sex object, or a housewife. These are all good sentiments to some extent because at least your man is giving you attention. I chanced to read a collection of essays written by older women over 50, and the common thread I found throughout was their fear of not being loved. This is a woman's biggest fear in life. Will she be loved like she wants to? Will you compromise your true identity in order to be with a guy? Is this right or wrong? I don't know, but I do know that of the handful of over 50 single women I know, most give off the alpha female quality, that they're too self-centered, strong, and naturally domineering for men to be attracted to them as feminine women, but at the same time they say they want true love. So which is it? Do you strive to act feminine and nice to attract a guy, or do you say the hell with it, I will be my masculine slobby self, be single but I will still be lonely and have that gnawing empty feeling of not feeling loved? Should you be real and single or fake it to get a guy? If men don't open up, it probably has very little to do with you. It's man's nature to keep it all in, solve his own problems, and particularly not to whine, especially to you, because he wants you to see a tough macho man, not a wimpy guy. He's got a standard gleaned from the movie idea of toughness and he wants to try to live up to it. Men don't listen because they're too busy making it in life and too busy with their own lives in general. It's not that he doesn't love you. It's just that even on his best day, you're still just between 10 to 50% of his life, because men are self-absorbed and self-centered by nature. When he doesn't talk or seems ambivalent, he's probably just tired from work and wants to take it easy for a while, or he's thinking about his own problems. Women have several issues distinct from men. The first is the dichotomy that a woman is either sexual and alluring or taken seriously as a sexless person. It's the hypocrisy of our society. You can try to fight it as much as you want, but it's very difficult to be both. Just try to be sexy and capable at the same time. Many men are frustrated and angry at the world outside because they're not as successful as they'd like to be, so they will often take it out on you, not really meaning it but just trying to get their frustrations out on something. If you're really strong, you will tell him he's mad at himself and you haven't been doing anything wrong. That should shut him up and force him to see himself as a trivial tit in that situation. If you're weak, you will take it and hope it blows over. Confront a jerk when he's being a jerk. Men have a lot of angst, which I talk about elsewhere, which leads to emotional violence sometimes in relationships. If you take it, it's your fault. Explain to him that he's taking out his frustrations on you and tell him to get a hold of himself and calm down. Tell him to read this section. Nobody really likes to fight but frustrated people. If you or your lover like to fight, it's masking deeper problems of anger and frustration. Either find yourself and get peaceful or live as a hermit, which is where you belong if you're that angry. If you have your disagreements, face them straight on in a logical way. Don't beat around the bush, fume, or ignore them. You don't have to have sex exclusively on his terms. Men want you to be more aggressive and add your own spice to the lovemaking and to the relationship. You don't have to be a wimp around men. Many women clam up around men, get giddy and add nothing substantial to the conversation. You're entitled to keep your backbone around men, and many men want you to too. They don't especially like wimpy girls. They like girls who stand up for themselves and live their lives unfettered, just do it as a part of human dignity, not arrogance. If you're not happy in a relationship, make a firm decision about staying or going and stick with it. If you're not really happy, don't stay just because you're scared to be alone. It's better to be a happy single than a sad lover. If the emotional connection is not equal, think hard about staying with the guy. If the guy doesn't give you emotional love but shows his love through other things like being the provider, that may be enough, because as I just said, men naturally don't show their emotions much but show love in other ways. You're allowed to talk about the bad stuff, what you don't like about him, rather than just isolating yourself and fuming on the inside. A good relationship is one where you get some satisfaction and your share of pleasure out of it. As a woman, you're allowed to get angry, allowed to have woman friends, and allowed to tell him when you think he's stepping over the line of decent behavior. Nothing in life is perfect, but a lot of women want that real special feeling that movies and dreams are made of, which doesn't exist much if at all in the real world, so know that a marriage will not change you inside much. You will still get lonely and feel unloved sometimes. You have to make the best of what you got and accept it as your version of love, because that's the way it is in the real world. Don't tie your self-worth to a man. Don't think you're nothing without a man. You can stand on your own either by choice or circumstance. Statistics say that women get depressed in a ratio of 8 to 1 over men. I say men get just as depressed, but they keep it in, they don't go to counselors and all that other so-called therapy foolishness. Anyway, it's the passive, victim mentality you were brought up to believe. Get guts. Many wives get beaten down over the years by either the husband's cynicism, the dull routine of the household, or just the fatigue and stress of raising kids. Your life is in your hands. You don't have to be a dud just because of your husband. Men have a nice moment with you and keep going. They're too scared and shy to make corny, romantic moves. You have to help them along. Men assume you and they know what's going on, so they don't speak much. Men might not talk much if you're both sitting down doing nothing, but if you get out there and do something active together, they might open up. Most women are tuned into the real undercurrents of what's going on in any situation, and hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. That means you, with all your little games of trying to get back at him for being a schmuck, like leaving the house dirty until he complains about it, forgetting to come home to cook supper, or cooking beans and whiners out of the can. Men aren't stupid either. They know what you're up to, but they'd rather just play dumb and hope it all blows over. A truly dignified human being doesn't resort to trivial tit-for-tat games to get even. If you're doing it, you got problems. What's wrong with a little bit of old-fashioned, straight-up mature honesty? If you've been playing those games, catch him off guard by being the best wife you can be. The old rule of reciprocity will kick in sooner or later, that is, you do something good for him, he will feel that he has to do something for you, and hopefully the situation will spiral. If you accept him, you must stop nagging and try to become an ally in his pursuits. If he golfs, take up golfing. If he watches sports, watch a bit with him and casually talk about other important house things while you're doing it. If you must nag, make it selective nagging about important things. Don't nag about trivial things from last night that are past tense. Men hate being told what to do and unsolicited advice. Even if it's the right thing and they're doing it wrong, they will resent you for telling them. It's tied into the male ego. Don't tell him what to do, rather, use subtlety and tact to get your way over a direct command. Most men will spite you one way or another. Nagging is telling a guy what's wrong with him and what to do. He will hate you for it if you do it. And don't mother the guy or tell him to act his age. Most men, no matter how sissified or wimpy they are, still like to see themselves as the cool, Daniel Boone, self-made, independent, strong type of guy. If you attack this facade, you will destroy the relationship. If you want to be a really good wife, do little things for your husband like get up when he gets up for work, make breakfast for him, and when he leaves, give him a kiss, then wave as he pulls out of the driveway. Wear nice clothes when he walks in the door after work. He will love you for it. Drive to his office and meet him for lunch. Bring him a home-cooked meal. Wear a jacket with no top underneath it and flash him. Call him up at work and tell him you can't wait to make love to him as soon as he gets home. If he's a bona fide jerk and you take it, it's your fault. You're enabling him. If he's jealous because you work and maybe because you earn more money than him, it might be a good idea to drop the bum. On the other hand, are you a pouty, immature crybaby who throws a tantrum until you get your way? Women outnumber men in the real world, so if you push him too far, he will just trade you in for a newer, better version. Unless you're real hot stuff, don't go too far in the nag department. If you work, start up your own bank account. Make it a point and a project for you and your husband to learn about money and do the books together. If you have daughters, bring them up to pursue whatever they want regardless of the sex role stigma involved. If you wear the pants in the family, unless he's a total wimp, he will find a mistress and leave you someday. Show a little bit o' spunk, but don't act too cute or too cool, it screams out vanity. Most men are meat and potatoes, basic, practical type guys living in the real world of bills and life. They don't like naive, frivolous type girls living in some fashion soap opera fantasy. I saw a talk show where several women had bad relationships, so they became scorned bitches angry at life and then subconsciously took their anger out on their new boyfriends. It comes down to the age-old lesson, just because one guy treats you bad doesn't mean they're all bad. You gotta know when you meet a good guy and treat him that way. Don't expect your man to change and don't expect to change him directly. You can show the way, but he has to change on his own. Men hate it when you flirt and lead them on just to get your ego stroked or wear sexy clothes then try to act all pure and virginal when they come on to you. Don't do these things if you don't intend to get passionate with a guy. In general, men want you to be a better housekeeper. Be a good cook. Don't spend too much money. Don't hold a grudge. Have a good sense of humor. Do neat things for the house on your own. Have more sex. Don't get all hot and bothered when I make a simple joke. Let me have more say about the children's discipline. Look good when I get home. Don't nag or yell at the kids. Complaints men have about women are liberated women who can't feel comfortable sharing love with a man. A woman who treats you as though you're a dog and all you want is sex from her. A tease who leads you on and then acts innocent. A woman who talks about past relationships. There's not enough room between too early and too late for the romance. Some men don't want the pressure of coming on too soon, they just want a friend to start off with. Women who give you the third degree of stupid questions geared to peg you for your material worth. Women obsessed with status and success. Women who are socially passive and want men to do everything. A man wants a woman to help him along during the awkward courting process. Women who act like psychologists and try to analyze you. Women who claim they want a sensitive guy but write you off as soon as they find out you earn less than 50k a year. Women who won't let a man be a man and act like a gentleman doing the regular courtesies because they don't want to feel obligated. Critical women with unrealistic high expectations who look to your faults because they subconsciously want to eliminate you from their pool. Women who see you as everyman and blame you for all the problems they've ever had with men. Busybodies, big mouths, and gossips. Psychology of Women websites. apa.org/division/div35, Society for the Psychology of Women. apa.org/pi/wpo/academe/refs.html, Women in Academia. cpa.ca/swap, Canadian Women. jyi.org/volume6/issue6/features/feng.html, looking good. The Psychology and Biology of Beauty. newearth.org/vgd/scywc.php, The Issue of Women in the Clergy. psychclassics.yourq.ca/special/women. psychologyinfo.com/depression/women.htm. psychology.okstate.edu/museum/women/cover2. html. psychology.org.au/units/interest_groups/women. psych.yourq.ca/femhop. chilenpsychologconsult.com/fee.html. questia.com, look up Psychology of Women. radford.edu/tilde-g-studies/book pw.html, A New Psychology of Women by Hilary Lips. Chapter 2. A Woman's Beauty and Power. Feminine Power Info. And finding her beauty such power has got. Her heart pants for something she cannot tell what. W.B. Yeats. I am the beloved. You are the beloved. Phony feminist guru. Use your feminine power to become the woman you feel you ought to be, a capable, nurturing, ambitious yet gentle soul. The world sees women as the weaker sex and sex objects, so you have to make your own breaks, love yourself and develop your own identity without being sucked in by the pop culture illusion of working on your beauty through cosmetics and sexiness as advanced by frivolous women's magazines, vampy TV shows and exploitative music videos. Women defeat themselves by thinking if they're not perfect, they don't measure up, therefore won't be loved, and if they're too perfect, they're cold bitches and will not be loved. So you are your own worst enemy by playing society's game of defining yourself when you should play your own game. Try to become a good, humble person in your own way, but most importantly, accept yourself as is right now, which a lot of women can't do. They feel a need to be miserable all the time because they can never measure up to what society or the people in their lives want all at the same time. Toxic men are very good at manipulating women to make them feel they're never good enough, thin enough, sexy enough, etc. But you can't let a man get control over you like this. It's better to have the courage to walk away rather than risk being with a guy like this, because sooner or later, you will anger him enough that he will leave, hit you and may even kill you, because that's the way some of these men are. If he can't control you and feels that you bruised his ego, he will get you back one way or another. Verbal abuse is not minor. It can be debilitating, reveals the true character of the perpetrator, and often leads to greater abuse. Society uses guilt to keep women down. If you go beyond bland niceness to be assertive in any way at all, men and women alike will thumb their noses at you and give you the message, who do you think you are, because it goes against the prescribed cultural roles of what a woman is supposed to be. But true liberation is to ignore all this and be who you really are. Don't let your sensitive woman's nature keep you down. Develop a tougher exterior where you just live for experience without analyzing your life all that much. Don't dwell on what others might think of you. Don't remember all your interactions with people over a lifetime and overanalyze them. Find your soul and live by it, totally accepting of yourself. Feminine Beauty Info. Feminine beauty is internal. Remember the statement in Proverbs in the Bible, 15:13, joyful heart makes a beautiful face, or Proverbs 31:30 that says charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting. You're only beautiful while you're young, but your heart stays for life. Free yourself from cultural ideas of beauty and focus on your heart. Everyone ages. By 40, you're no longer considered a young beauty no matter how well you took care of yourself, so do yourself a favor and focus on developing your soul while taking care of yourself physically, but don't fall for that vampy, cheap look of too much makeup and too many trendy clothes and jewelry. The natural look reveals a finer character than that overdone so-called fashionable look. Don't take your frustrations out on yourself by blindly trying to measure up to the media ideal of feminine beauty, or don't go to the opposite view and give up to live in the fantasy world of food, romance novels, and tabloid gossip to give you a bland sense of comfort to deal with your despair of not measuring up to the cute, bubbly illusions in the frivolous magazines and TV shows which tend to make us envious and neurotic about ourselves. Don't compete with other women. Be friends with them so that you help empower each other as you go along. The maxim put forth by many of our female gurus of the "you are the beloved, be the queen princess goddess that you are" ideology is somewhat deceptive because it encourages a holier than thou, superior attitude that you expect men to worship you simply by virtue of the fact that you're a woman, supposedly the gentler sex, who drives men wild by your beauty. Don't try to be this trendy, independent babe in full control of yourself if you expect to realistically score with good men. A lot of liberated women go to the opposite extreme of the passive woman complex to be loud, arrogant, unladylike bitches, so go easy on that goddess stuff. You're just an ordinary human being like the guy who wants to ask you out on a date. Don't make it harder on him by being a textbook case of the aloof, independent career babe who's got it all figured out without needing a man to take care of you. If you can't be soft, at least learn to project the image of feminine softness. Men generally prefer simple girls because they give them what they want, female softness without all that profound psychobabble the more modern, so-called advanced girls have. That's not to say dumb yourself down or give up on men, but live your own life first. If the right guy comes along and respects you for your independence and originality, then he's worth it, but if anyone less of a man comes by and romances you with cheap insincere gestures, think twice before you will compromise who you really are just to be with him. Men would really rather have both qualities, a girl with feminine softness who has enough abilities to make her own way in the world if need be, because the nice soft girl who is the dependent flake drains too much out of the guy, so it's always a middle ground. If you're too bitchy, as many girls are who feel a need to overcompensate for their perceived inferiority in the world, men won't go for it. You don't have to live in drama aspiring to be fabulously beautiful or stay insecure and neurotic as men want you to. Listen to your inner self in a quiet way. Life will still have challenges and foibles as it does for men, but if you listen to yourself, you know you will be living the right life true to yourself no matter what. Be good to yourself. Take it easy to enjoy your life. You can live an inspired, productive life and enjoy it if you listen to your soul, find something useful inside of you that earns you your keep or helps out your family, and pursue it with a passion. Don't be afraid of disapproval for not knowing your place in this supposedly man's world. This is what the new era is all about, you becoming a liberated woman in full control of your life without worrying about the world out there limiting you in any way at all. Be more like a man without giving up your femininity. It's not a man's job to make you whole. It's your responsibility to be whole, and if you are, the right man and other upstanding men will respect and even admire you for being who you are. By whole, I don't mean some modern-day career girl with a red Corvette and a room full of trendy clothes. I mean an unassuming person with nothing to prove out in the world, with a sense of peace, who is following her true nature by doing good, worthwhile things that inspire her for her life without trying to be the next American Idol or something like that. Pop culture wannabes are a dime a dozen. I like original girls who go beyond that world to try to do something, anything worthy that gets beyond this actress/model, Pop culture, trendy thing. Whenever I see a girl proclaiming her interest in being an actress or model, I know that in 98% of all cases, she's not doing it for the inspiration of expressing her passions for the art of it, she's doing it to become a jet-setter and a star, and she won't love any man as much as she loves herself. Books about womanhood are at number 155.3, number 301.427, number 305.4 and number 306.708 or HQ27 to HQ1233 at the library. There are some books about the psychology of women at number 155.3, number 158 or BF637. Inspirational and spiritual books for women are at number 291.432 or BJ1610 at the library. livescience.com/health/0701002_facial_features.html. Feminine modesty info. Sometimes when I watch the dating shows on TV, I see these girls who think they're large and in charge because they're living according to the definitions of success and trendiness they got from the mainstream media. Then they can't seem to understand when they're voted off or not picked. It's because there is no sense of old-fashioned, traditional values, good friend warmth there. They're just a caricature of a cold image they saw on TV, and guys aren't stupid. They can intuitively sense a genuine warm heart versus Miss Pretense Ladida. If I was looking to marry, I'd pick the modest girl over the trendy, yuppie one every time, controlling for beauty, which means they have equal bodies and faces. I'm just way past these brainwashed girls thinking they're all that because they got some professional job somewhere and they're wearing $300 shoes. It tells me right away she's vain and uppity. ModestyZone.net, Modesty Zone, Young Women for Real Relationships. GirlsGoneMild.com, Girls Gone Mild, Young Women Reclaim Self-Respect and Find It's Not Bad to Be Good. The pop culture image of beauty versus a strong woman in real life. The pop culture view of beauty is something like fake boobs, pierced navel, body tanned in a salon, bleach blonde hair with extensions, long, acrylic nails, lots of makeup, too much lipstick, lots of jewelry, thong sticking up so it can be seen, tramp stamp tattoo. Men define female beauty as young healthy body, not skinny but no extra fat, wholesome look, pleasant face, nice clothes, not skanky. Beauty is not just outer appearance. The girl has to look like she has a beautiful spirit. She can't be some empty airhead caricature of some skanky pop star. There is a line between being naturally beautiful and nice and spending lots of time to beautify yourself with an uppity, arrogant attitude. Some NAVE guys get taken in by the vain girls who think they're all that, but these girls are so selfish and demanding that very few guys stay with them unless they're messed up too. Read about the virtuous woman in the Bible. That's the kind of girl guys want to be their wives, someone like that who is sexy in a tasteful, not in your face way. A lot of women are brainwashed by the beauty industry and psychobabble. They think they can manufacture a look and a way about themselves, but everything is fake next to one's true nature, which is one's essence or spirit. People can't fake who they really are. Wise people can read you. Stupid people fall for the image. A noble person is willing to sweat to be strong and vital. It shows. People with self-respect regard their bodies as the temple of the soul. They take care of it because they revere their lives. They believe they are sacred. I don't take care of my body to be vain because I don't care about what other people think about me. I do it to answer the inner code I live by that demands I be true to who I was born to be every day. This is why I think beautiful women are wholesome looking, healthy women not wearing much makeup, bling, tattoos, etc. The more stuff I see on a girl including hair color, the more I think she's screwed in nth head. Women's archetypes. Women have a very rich place in the symbolism of ancient archetypes, all the way from Isis of Egypt, Venus of Rome, Inanna of Mesopotamia to Aphrodite of Greece to Mary the Virgin Mother of Christianity to the ugly hag Medusa. Women archetypes have generally been portrayed as Vestal virgins, divine brides, fertility, strength with compassion, healers, nurturers, mothers, intuitive, gentle wisdom, witchcraft, rebirth and rejuvenation, and on the other hand, Jezebels, femme fatale, Queen of Shebas, Delilahs, seductresses, charmers, users, exploiters, gold diggers, and self-centered frivolous vain conniving bitches. In order to find out who you are at the core of your soul, find out what your pure essence is and live it out. If you do this, your life will become simple. You will know your archetype, live by it and screw the rest because it's all crap beyond your true real self. According to the book The Goddess in India by Devdutt Patnaik, innertraditions.com, 800-246-8648, there are 5 faces of womanhood. Mother Earth, close to nature, wise, practical. Primal Mother, nurturer. Dancing Nymph, seductress. Chaste Housewife, family. Amazon Goddess, tough, manly and vengeful. Try number 155.5, number 291.082 or HQ777 at the library for books on the subject. Some interesting books are Daughter of the Goddess, The Sacred Priestess by Naomi Ozanik. Diving Deep and Surfacing, Women Writers on Spiritual Quest, 1980, Carol Christ. Goddess, The, 1997, Shukruk Hussain. Goddesses in Every Woman, 1992, by Jean Shindola Bolin. Knowing Women, A Feminine Psychology, 1974, Irene Claremont de Castillejo. Listening to Our Bodies, The Rebirth of Feminine Wisdom, 1983, Stephanie Dimetrikopoulos. Lost Goddesses of Early Greece, 1981, by Charlene Spretnak. Of Woman Born, 1977, by Adrienne Rich. Meeting at the Crossroads, Women's Psychology and Girls' Development, 1992, Lynn Michael Brown and Carol Gilligan. The Female Eunuch, 1971, by Germaine Greer. The Feminine Face of God, 1991, Sherry Ruth Anderson and Patricia Hopkins. The Girl Within, 1989, Emily Hancock. The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara G. Walker. To Be a Woman, The Birth of the Conscious Feminine by Connie Zweig. Women of Wisdom, 1984, Sultra Malyan. Women Who Run with the Wolves, Myths and Stories of the Wild Woman Archetype by Clarissa Pinkola Estes, 1992. Sex Goddess Websites. Paganism.meetup.com. herchurch.org. Goddess.com.au. Goddessgift.com, Which Goddess Are You? Goddessgift.com/read_personality_archetypes.htm. goddess-guides.com/archetypes.html. goddess-power.com. umsonline.org, Mythology Archetypes. Chapter 3. Ladies Info. Guys are dogs by nature. A man in modern society is a primal guy with all his hormones raging underneath a layer of civilization. Men are still aggressive and sexual like the Vikings and cavemen of old. It's just that we learn to be polite in society. A man's biological imperative is to impregnate as many women as possible for his own pleasure. The biological part is that he is passing his seed on. Monogamy is cultural indoctrination. The point for any woman is, where do you find a man who still has this exciting masculine way about himself, who is docile enough to be with one woman, stick with her and not beat her when he gets angry? The really good men are usually physical wimps. Personally, I feel if you want a good man, don't go out with any man under 35 because they're all a bunch of insecure, brainwashed, confused people, at least until then. By 35, a guy will have sown some of his wild oats and can make a clearer decision than a young man as to whether he wants to try marriage and family. Young guys are too immature and don't know their own true natures enough to be good husbands. If a guy was raised well, he acts gentlemanly out in public even though he is a slut and a Viking in the privacy of his mind. If you meet a guy and he's uncouth, aggressive, and ill-mannered, you can't change him. Don't waste your time with guys who are not polite up front. Any man who is egotistical enough to seek attention from others in anything is not a good guy to be around. A lot of guys want attention from others, to be recognized as special. These aren't good men. A mature guy tries to make you happy. If you're with a guy who wants you and the world to make him happy, stay away. My entire point is that guys are dogs by nature, but the one thing that wises most of them up is that they learn that the world does not care about them one way or another. If they want companionship, they have to be nice to people. Most men don't learn this until they're at least 32. If you give your heart to a young, vain guy, you will get it broken. A guy doesn't mature until at least 35. If he wants a loving relationship at that age, he's wise enough to know he has to treat the girl right, but before then he's just too self-centered. Macho culture. She's not the first, but she could be the last. Macho man saying he's in love. They have a right to work wherever they want, as long as they have dinner ready when you get home. John Wayne, former macho actor who smoked too much and paid the price. There is a lot of contradictory knowledge regarding the macho culture. Some people say that women created it over eons of time because they wanted the biggest, toughest, badass guys to protect and take care of them, so by selective breeding, the cooperative, nurturing, more sissy type guys died out, leaving this one-dimensional stud who sees himself as the alpha male king of the world. In modern-day society, there is massive cultural brainwash trying to form boys into self-centered, competitive, one-dimensional, achievement-oriented, silent macho men because it increases overall production in society where men are always competing, trying to outdo one another. It makes them safe conformists living by this ideal and makes them good consumers who want to buy the latest macho things out there to look cool and enhance their images. Machismo is all over the cartoons, the action movies and the images of successful men in advertising, the free, independent, go-getter, conqueror who listens to no one, but advertisements. A lot of guys buy into the phony brainwash of the world about being manly and macho, like make it to the top, win, beat everybody, be number one, drive a cool car, watch sports on TV and pretend you like it, drink beer because everyone else is, etc. Most guys in the capitalist West aren't really macho men like a Samuel Hearn or Ernest Shackleton, two explorers who put their lives on the line to do tough things. No guts, no glory. Being a real macho man is doing something tough like working as a lumberjack, which is tough work. It ain't exactly like the office worker who packs a few dirt bikes into his cute red pickup then drives down a country road for a few hours. So what? They're just playing a role of it gleaned from pop culture. Men have emotions. Many of the Christian ones were raised well by their parents and now they're caught midway between being an unfeeling, macho phony and being who they really feel inside, sensitive, empathetic, gentle-hearted men, but this is not cool, so they take on the one-dimensional, unfeeling facade both as a way to cope with demands on them and to look cool to other men, which is what they, insecure young men, care about, how they appear to other men, not women. From my own experience, I've found that some men never get over the macho facade. Of the ones that do, I see it start to happen at about 40 years old after they've had children and start to realize that friendship and showing emotion is more natural and better than keeping up the fake, strong, silent, stiff upper lip facade. Macho culture, in the strictest sense, is an ideology followed most strictly in the Latino culture. They start off with man at the center of the universe. He is superior to women. Women have no place out in the real world in the affairs of men. They belong at home making babies and keeping the house. The man is the undisputed king of the world and the house. What he says goes. Macho men revere their mothers as a sacred woman but feel they own their wives who must be subservient to them. The wife must provide sex on demand and be a maid in the house. The macho culture is vanity, self-glorification, anti-gay, anti-sissy, all-tough guy adventurer, cool dude, achiever, success with lots of macho toys around like guns, cars, motorbikes, jeeps, etc. If you want to see macho culture in the flesh with respect to the way to treat a woman, watch a few rap videos. A true macho man will try to assert his macho ego over his wife by trying to dominate her and bend her to his will. A fake macho man, as most guys in our Western pop culture world are, will usually act cool and tough outside the house but at home will either give in to his wife willingly by being a gentle guy or not be able to snow his wife, because a lot of girls these days, especially among the educated crowd, don't take abuse or domination from their husbands. The exception to this is the lower class, where a lot of weak girls who have absolutely nothing going for themselves in terms of earning a living out in the world allow themselves to get taken by a one-dimensional man and be dominated by him in exchange for thinking they're in a relationship and having the guy pay the bills. But this is not a relationship, it's bondage. I mostly only see this among lower class people, mainly for two reasons. Lower class guys feel powerless out in the world, so they make up for it by trying to yield excessive power over their wives and kids. Guys doing alright out there don't have these deficient feelings, so they don't have to act out inferiority complexes. Secondly, middle class girls or girls with a marketable skill who can pay their own way don't need some domineering macho man trying to control them, so they don't take it. Only the low-class ones who don't even have beauty as leverage allow themselves to be dominated by macho men. These women, even though they oblige their guys, inside, hate him and are resentful but stay because of the economic bondage. Overall, girls are trained by pop culture to desire the proverbial bad boy, the guy in the rock band or the rebel who breaks the rules, but as I state elsewhere in this book, bad boys are really bad boys. They're self-centered, one-dimensional, unfeeling macho men who see themselves as vain tough guys and ain't no chick gonna stand in their way. They will sleep with whoever they want when they want. Sensible girls get tired of macho guys who treat them callously and casually in love. I've seen it many times. The nerd gets the girl because he treats her well. The stud is too busy admiring himself as the big macho man trying to climb some phallic symbol or prove his macho toughness somewhere to other men so much that the girl says screw him. Don't treat your girl differently when you're alone and when you're with your buddies acting like a macho jerk in front of them. Show your love for her in front of them. Show them what real love is all about. Don't take crap from a man, and that means the passive, so-called macho silence that men deceptively like to hide behind. I'm a man, and in my soul, I'm totally and perfectly capable of feeling what a woman feels, and I do every day, but at the same time, I know that I can always act stupid and play the cutesy, macho role of being a dumb jock archetype, and it works a lot as a charmer, and a lot of men play that game to their advantage. But in a true, loving relationship, why should you try to hide who you really are? You're supposed to be sensitive, honest, and open. The macho culture ain't going anywhere soon. This is male culture for men in a male-dominated world. They don't want to fork power over to women, so they protect themselves with the culture of machismo where men rule, such as in most male-dominated work venues, hockey arenas, bars, anywhere that men congregate socially except for church groups, and in the sex industry where the woman is a sex object geared to please men. The modern-day definition of a man according to pop culture is macho, because this creates a lucrative market which can sell all kinds of souped-up sports cars, badass stereo systems, expensive sportswear, beer, pornography, gold chains, SUVs, and all kinds of other macho garbage that men typically buy in order to appear cool and tough to other men and impress a few one-dimensional women who they think will jump into bed with them because they think they're so macho. But this is mostly another pop culture fantasy created by corporate advertising in order to sell product. The old "if you look cool, tough, boss and macho, girls will desperately want you to screw them" gimmick. Think of the male equivalent of the self-centered, bleach blonde, cosmetic tit gold digger bitch, and you got your modern-day macho man, each with about as much sincerity as there is in my butt. A woman's emotional needs. Women in general need way more emotional attention than men either want to give or can give, simply because in the grand hierarchy of things to do for them, the first priority is breadwinning, aka achieving status out in the world, and the second is living out the fantasies in their minds. And I'm sorry to say this usually does not include pledging undying love exclusively to one woman, then making her feel special for the rest of their lives together. If you love your man and want to be with him, accept him for who he is with his limited attention to you that does not meet the standard of attention you want. This is just the way it is in the relationship between most men and women. Most guys are not romantic people who spend much time thinking about showering love and emotional attention onto their wives. They might love you in their souls and not show it much, or show it by doing practical things like breadwinning and doing home improvements. Because of this distance between a woman's emotional needs and a man's feeling of what is appropriate to give to his wife emotionally, many men are simply self-conscious about showing emotion. My suggestion is, firstly, if you love a guy, accept his limited show of emotion as the way he is. Chances are that he won't open up much more than this over a lifetime. In the movies, we often see a scene where the guy has been keeping it in all his life and then finally lets it out in one big emotional shot, but in real life chances are that this won't happen. I saw a documentary about a guy who the doctor told was going to die. The guy said he wanted to tell his wife he loved her, but when she came into the hospital room, he just couldn't do it. I remember I was in love with a girl once, and as I stood face to face with her, I just couldn't tell her I loved her, even though I still do in my soul, and this is 25 years later. The reason I couldn't tell her I loved her was because I was an unfulfilled man full of personal angst about my own life, but I can't deny the fact that I loved her. I felt terrible about it, but something inside of me stopped me from expressing my love for her. I contend that for one reason or another, 90% of all men you might ever date will have something inside of them that stops them from being openly loving, intimate, personable, easygoing, and light-hearted with their wives or with women in general. There is a superficial relationship and emotional distance in most marriages in America today. How do I know this, you might ask? It's because I'm an observer. I make it a point to quietly observe people I come across to try to get a feel for what's going on between them. Most people have civil relationships, but it ain't exactly like the old man and old woman sitting side by side on a park bench, bodies touching, holding hands, being perfectly happy together. True love reminds me of a love song Supertramp put out about 20 years ago or so. It was a nice flowing song. It had a line in it something like, "Down by the sea, it just felt so nice, you and me." How often do you see this in real life? Two people sincerely enjoying each other's company, doing something together, or merely sitting quietly together in love. You don't see it much out in the world. Granted, most relationships have a grace period, a honeymoon so to speak, for about 30 months. After that, they devolve to relationships of convenience, practical function, and arrangements. There's no spark there, no genuine easy feeling of enjoyment with each other. My advice to women is to look hard for a romantic guy who is not too ambitious out in the world, or accept your mate for who he is and get your emotional needs met through other means like kids, pets, friends and relatives. The allure of mystery and space. Women are best if they don't reveal themselves too completely to men. If she likes you, she doesn't want you to be her friend. She wants you to be man enough to be her lover. If you're too open, too sensitive, and too familiar, all the mystery and expectation of exciting, spontaneous, new romantic experiences is gone. Trust your instincts. Be who you are. If you're a man, be manly and noble. If you're a woman, be ladylike and feminine. Psychologists studying children who knew each other well, as with children living in kibbutzes and children raised together in the same neighborhood, found that at adolescence, they became more like brothers and sisters than lovers. That's not to say that Jimmy and Jody in class at school might not get together, because school is not the same as neighborhood, particularly in high school where people from all over go. But if you two lived next to each other on the same street all your life, chances are you won't be lovers because you're too familiar with each other. There's no mystery and allure there. Contrary to popular opinion, great love is not two people always with each other. It's more like romantic escapades followed by backing off to give each other space for a while, then reconnecting again, always trying to keep a romantic mood without degenerating into the mundane practical realities of life, almost like the mistress who sees her married lover twice a week, so she tries extra hard to make everything nice for that little envelope of time they will be together, then he will go off and leave her alone for a while. Love takes a lot of emotional effort, which is why it's best when it goes for short intense bursts followed by giving each other time to live your own lives and relax alone for a bit, and don't probe too deeply into each other's solitary thoughts, hobbies, or vocations. Don't be a busybody. The allure of keeping the mystery of not knowing all the pragmatic things that make up each other's lives will go a lot further in keeping romance alive than getting to know everything about your lover. Remember, familiarity breeds contempt. Don't keep a distance coldly with contempt. Do it naturally with love for the sanctity of the marriage. Take what your lover gives you and leave it at that without getting in their face about wanting more or wanting to invade their personal space. If there's a lull in the action, if he gets depressed or has a lot of stress at work, back off, leave him be until he comes back to you on his own. Let him know you will be in the background as a quiet supportive friend and leave it at that. The more a woman earns her own keep and stands on her own out in the world, generally the more healthy, mature and sharing the love should be because it's pure, untouched by a need for control or dependency. Love has to be stronger than all the possible distractions out in the world, so it's gotta be real and powerful in order to beat everything else out there out. The best scene is a balance of both, you alone doing what you want in the world and retreating into the love of your marriage here and there. Always have manners with each other. Respect each other. Never take each other for granted. To treat her as a bit of stranger means you love her enough to give her space and to never stop trying to be tastefully romantic with her. Try to always look nice and enjoy your romantic and sexual times together. Sex should always be mutually spontaneous, not mechanical and planned. Don't assume your lover is a sex expert nor knows what you want from her, which is why you should treat every sex episode as a new experience with an untested love. Go with the flow of it. If you were to watch music videos, pop stars, and the so-called liberated girls on TV, you'd think the cool way to be was direct, in your face, upfront, competitive, independent, etc. But what happened to graciousness, sweetness, humility, modesty, all but lost on a generation of the modern girl brainwashed by frivolous magazines? Men aren't stupid. Even the dumbest looking guy knows what's going on, even though he pretends he doesn't. If you want to come off real, don't color your hair. A lot of people can't let themselves be loved. There's an art to it. If you brush your lover off when he or she wants to love you and does things to try to make you happy, you'd better go with the flow and show appreciation if you expect him or her to keep loving you. The more you show how much you like being loved, the more you will get. Nobody is indispensable in love. If you show your lover that you think he or she is indispensable, you lose. It shows weakness on your part. Show him or her great love, but at the same time, make it perfectly clear that you're there because you want to, not because you're a deficient person who feels they have to be there in order to feel whole. You have to give off the vibe that you're cool and enlightened, and if your lover takes you for granted, you will move on. It's good to keep a piece of you unreachable because it will keep your lover on her toes, knowing she has to meet you at least halfway in loving each other. Enlightened people know we're all loners, that we connect here and there for brief moments that we ride and cherish, then we go back to our solitary lives. Accept that this is the best you will ever do and love the loving, intimate moments when they happen. Live by this spiritual flow and don't give in to the trivial vagaries of life that can very quickly destroy your love life. Live for the mood of romance, not the tough and trivial day-to-day things. When you're together with your lover, focus on the romantic mood, not the harsh practical realities of life. Keep that distance about probing too deeply into your lover's thoughts and problems. Give them their space. Just try to keep it romantic between the two of you. All in all, look at love as a learning experience that goes on and never ends. It's constant discovery all the time. Some drama is good because it keeps each other on their toes in trying to please your lover. Some habit is good too to keep it stable and fixed, so it's all a balancing act of extremes. The pop culture, trendy girl full of image. Men are looking for somebody natural, beautiful, happy with her life being herself, not some skank who looks and acts like a walking caricature of the ads in frivolous women's magazines. Real men, or at least men like me, aren't particularly attracted to girls manufactured by the system to present themselves as what amounts to an image as opposed to who they really are. It's easy to spot who's real and natural as opposed to someone living out some delusion she borrowed from a hair coloring TV commercial. This is the big lie or the big rift. Men want somebody real and natural, but the clothing, cosmetics, hair coloring and frivolous media industries as with women's TV shows and most women's magazines are presenting a fake image for you geared for one thing, to suck you out of your money in the mistaken belief that you are being cool and trendy by buying into the lifestyle they're trying to sell you. Girls don't like it when I say glamour is a fake term created by the entertainment industry to sell you this delusion of a special feeling because they're trying to make money off you one way or another when the truth is that you are who you are in your essence. Your base consciousness never changes. You get self-respect through sweat. That's the only real kind of special feeling there is in life along with love, sex, and recreational substances. None of that crap they're trying to sell you will give it to you, but how many girls own 50 purses and 100 pair of shoes? Middle-aged girls or girls in general don't like it when I snicker at the homemaker industry and say it's a con job created by capitalist forces to get them to try to fill up their lost souls with cutesy, useless junk, then tell them get a life and do something intense, original, and inspired, and they might be able to attract a good man who's impressed with who they are and what they're doing, not with the crap they own that they think makes them cool or look cool without actually being cool. Because true cool is living your life as the individual you are. I'm rocking their trivial, little comfort zones that real men of substance can't stand, so I'm telling the truth about why all these brainwashed, pop culture, system clone girls can't attract a man, but they don't like it because deep down they know it's the truth, so they're trying to kill the messenger, me. You can be a pop culture flake all you want and think you're cool cause you're imitating what you saw on some frivolous TV show, but men aren't stupid. They just act that way because it's easier for them to play the role of the dumb, unemotional male stereotype than to bother revealing their true souls through conversation and empathy. The point is that we see through the bull. I know who somebody real is with inner warmth, strength, dignity, and charm as opposed to some hotshot trendy broad full of herself. The trendier you look, the colder you are. Girls get so brainwashed by the pop culture capitalist sales machine that they think the opposite of the truth is true. Cosmetics, clothing, and hair coloring companies are master marketers, able to manipulate millions of women to buy stuff by appealing to their vanity and insecurities, but consumer goods don't do anything for the real person you are. So when I see someone trying to present an image based on stuff rather than what might be original, inspired and passionate within themselves, I know I'm dealing with another lost soul, and for my standards of true love, I don't want anyone other than somebody sincerely being herself without pretense or image. Guys looking for wives are looking for somebody nice, soft, good, kind, natural, unassuming, and modest, not over-made up girls with roots showing through and attitudes they borrowed from manufactured pop stars trying to be badasses. You can't fool most people. They see through it. Why was there so much contempt for Ms. Hilton when they sent her off to jail? It's because of those hundreds of times before then when she was preening at the camera acting like some superior snobby princess. If you act that way you'll get the same treatment regardless of where you are. Guys might try to play you for sex because they assume somebody so trendy is liberated enough to be into casual sex, but as far as love goes, forget it. One-liners about men. Here are some of the duncy stereotypes about men mostly coined by women that I got from certain websites and books made up of women discussing the negative side of men, although some men admit their dogs as a group too. The Old Testament makes woman a mere afterthought in creation, the author of evil, cursed in her maternity, a subject in marriage, an all-female life, animal and human, unclean. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, The Woman's Bible, 1898. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. Abigail Adams, Letter to John Adams, March 31, 1776. At 10 a child. At 20 wild. At 30, tame, if ever. At 40, wise. At 50 rich. At 60 good, or never. Anonymous. Wife and servant are the same, but only differ in the name. Lady Mary Chudley, Poems on Several Occasions, 1773. The compulsion to find a husband and lover in a single person has doomed more women to misery than any other illusion. Carolyn Heilbron, Writing a Woman's Life, 1988. Most men I know can see better than they can think. That's why I get all dressed up. Dame in old movie. To be happy with a man you must understand him a lot and love him a little. To be happy with a woman, you must love her a lot and not try to understand her at all. Helen Rowland, A Guide to Men, 1922. I have a big flaw in that I'm attracted to thin, tall, good-looking men who have one common denominator. They must be lurking bastards. Edna O'Brien. Men are like disposable razors. They're sharp at first, but after a while they either get dull or cut you, so it's time to dispose of them and get a new one. Bertha, the cool bitch. Women over 30 are at their best, but men over 30 are too old to recognize it. Jean-Paul Belmondo. I married beneath me, all women do. Lady Astor, née Nancy Witcher, 1879–1964. We are becoming the men we wanted to marry. Gloria Steinem, M.S., 1982. Whatever women do, they must do twice as well as men to be thought half as good. Charlotte Whitten. A man in the house is worth two in the street. Mae West, in Belle of the 90s, 1934. I don't hate men, I just wish they'd try harder. They all want to be heroes and all we want is for them to stay at home and help with the housework and the kids. That's not the kind of heroism they enjoy. Jeanette Winterson, Sexing the Cherry, 1989. Women want men to be more like women. A woman without a man is like a fish without a bicycle. Bumper sticker. Women's faults aren't any. Men have only two. Everything they say. And everything they do. Funny feminist. Can you imagine a world without men? No crime and lots of fat, happy women. Nicole Hollander, Sylvia, 1981. It is not the prerogative of men alone to bring light into the world. Male who got a sex change operation. The only way to make a husband over according to one's ideas would be to adopt him at an early age, say 4. Mary Reinhardt, Isn't That Just Like a Man, 1920. Adam was but human, this explains it all. He did not want the apple for the apple's sake, he wanted it only because it was forbidden. The mistake was in not forbidding the serpent, then he would have eaten the serpent. Mark Twain, Pudd'nhead Wilson. Chivalry ain't dead yet. Open the door for me, you big lug. Men weren't really the enemy, they were fellow victims suffering from an outmoded masculine mystique that made them feel unnecessarily inadequate when there were no bears to kill. Betty Friedan, Christian Science Monitor, April, 1974. Never trust a husband too far or a bachelor too near. Helen Rowland, The Rubaiyat of a Bachelor, 1915. When it comes to sex, man can be the most brutal and violent animal in trying to get it. It's not the men in my life that counts, it's the life in my men. Mae West, Diamond Lil, 1932. Most women are neurotic because their culture has indoctrinated them to never be satisfied with their looks, body weight, wardrobe, abilities as a mother, abilities in the workplace. Men are attracted to this because it makes them seem dipsy, therefore sexy. Smart women know men hate smart women with smart-ass attitudes, so they hide their intelligence from men. If you find a guy who doesn't particularly care about the car he drives and can afford an expensive sports car if he wants one, he's probably a good guy, go for him. Men are not as manly as in the old days. Summer bachelors, like summer breezes, are never as cool as they pretend to be. Nora Ephron, New York Post, August 22, 1965. Men are easy to manipulate if you're pretty. Men are pigs. Men want hassle-free sex and freedom. I never met a man who could love me the way I want to be loved. Most men aren't romantic by nature. They have to learn it. The man who treasures his friends is usually solid gold himself. Marjorie Holmes, Love and Laughter, 1967. If a guy doesn't really want to get married, don't push him because you will regret it later. Look for a guy who wants to get married. We don't even need men to have babies anymore. All men are afraid they won't measure up to their girl's perception of them. You have to be very fond of men. Very, very fond. You have to be very fond of them to love them. Otherwise, they're simply unbearable. Marguerite Duras, Practicalities, 1987. As soon as society started to accept women sleeping around, slobby men who neglected or abused their wives were no longer safe in her staying no matter what. To many men, marriage is just a business contract which fuels the divorce industry. Men are as uncomplicated as dogs but not as faithful. Men have bigger muscles, that's it. Men are generally one-dimensional or act that way to make life go easy on them. Men are trainable and must be trained by the woman in order to be useful around the house. In exchange, she gives her guy the temporary use of her vagina. Most women have been hurt by at least one man in their lives. Women are bound by fate to play up to men to get what they want. Women have babies. They're superior to be able to take the pain and keep having them. Males are 1,000 times more cruel, violent, and thoughtless than women. A guy is the means through which the woman raises her children. Don't trust a guy unless you know him well. Women compete for men, which is why many hate each other. Men get bigger but not smarter. Men are lower than beasts, worse than dogs. Men are one-dimensional and boring. Men will do anything for sex, including being massively sucked in by women. Men are only good if they can be trained to do useful things. The woman is life and the man is the servant of life. Joseph Campbell, famous mythologist. Give guys a little credit. After all, they're human. Give a guy a break and he will run all over you. A man will swear to die for you before marriage, then barely put his newspaper down to listen to you after. The ideal man is handsome, makes a decent living and is stupid enough for a girl to manipulate. Most modern men are conformists to the system. There are very few independent originals left. Men's entire life is a duty. Even in bed, it's his duty to get it up. Many women don't marry for love. They marry because they don't want to work a regular job. The chance for sex will compromise most men's morals and make them temporarily stupid. Men may love one woman but always want to have sex with many more. The average man is more interested in a woman who is interested in him than he is in a woman with beautiful legs. Marlene Dietrich. Good husbands are boring guys, bad husbands are a conceited lot.